Over the last decade of making and selling products online, I've had my fair share of successful and unsuccessful products. From products that didn't sell at all to products that were purchased by celebrities and featured in magazines and on design websites. I've learned what does and doesn't work when it comes to selling your own products online. When you're under pressure, making and selling your own products, it can be hard to know what to tweak to make your product successful. And sometimes you might even need to look at changing your product or ditching your product completely, as hard as that may seem. In this video, I'll talk you through 5 reasons why your product might not be selling and what you could do about it. So in no particular order, number 1, why your product isn't selling is you're selling on the wrong platform. Should you sell on a large marketplace like Etsy or Amazon, or should you set up a standalone website using something like Shopify or Squarespace? Imagine you opened a bricks and mortar store in the middle of nowhere, like in the desert, and no one came to buy your product because no one knew it was there. That's basically what you're doing when you set up your store as a standalone site using something like Shopify or Squarespace. If you do this, you must have a plan for how you are going to tell people about your store and how you are going to get them to go there and buy your product. In contrast, setting up your store on an online marketplace like Amazon or Etsy is like having a booth at a market. You won't be solely responsible for attracting your customers to your store. The marketplace platform will have its own strategies in place for optimizing people's ability to find the product they're looking for and to buy them. This option is good because, just like a normal market, customers are there on purpose. They're there to look, they've got money in their pockets, and they're there to buy. If you're new to selling your products online and you have no existing online presence and no customer database or anything else to go on, this can be a great option to start off. In return for this, you'll probably have to pay sellers' fees like a small listing fee and then a proportion of your sales going back to that platform. It's really good if you're just starting out and doing your own marketing just seems overwhelming. However, do keep in mind that selling on these online marketplaces is really competitive. Your competition is all around you, and they often have analytics in the background that show other sellers which of your products are selling best. So if something's going really well, you can expect other people to start copying you on that platform as well. So which option you go for really just depends on your product and your appetite for doing your own marketing. The second reason why people might not be buying your product is because the right people don't know about your product. Regardless of whether or not you have money for marketing, you still need to find a way to let people know about it. A simple thing you can do if you're in this situation is start posting photos of your product online on Instagram or somewhere similar with an easy to find link to purchase, and then sit back and watch what happens. You'll instantly start getting feedback. Watch who likes it. Does anyone like it? Does nobody like it? What are they saying in the comments? What questions do they have? Be careful not to take one piece of feedback as a sign to make sweeping changes to your product. So for example, if you get the odd comment about the price being too high, but you're actually selling quite a lot of your product and making a good revenue, then your pricing is probably okay. We don't have to please every customer, and we actually can't. Only the right ones, and they are the ones who like our product and want to buy it. Then you can move on to start looking at who's buying it. You could look at all kinds of things. What countries do they live in? What gender are they? What age? If they're local, what sort of suburbs do they live in? Once you start to get a profile of your most likely customer, you can use this information to invest in things like getting your product into influencer accounts. For example, Procreate was happy to build awareness of their art and drawing app by giving it to smaller artists to use on their social media accounts. So these are just examples of how you might go about building that awareness from nothing. If you haven't found your people yet and you don't really know who to target, but you feel really confident in your product, it might just be that you just haven't found them yet. Number 3 of the reasons why your product might not be selling is that you're not communicating about it in the right way. In particular, I'm talking about your product photos and the way that you talk about your product. You've probably heard this before, but you need to understand the difference between features and benefits. People may not understand what your product is and how they will benefit from owning it. Your communication about your product should clearly show what people will get if they own your product. But too often, people sell their products by only talking about the product's features instead of the benefits. Someone who just created their own skincare products would know that product inside out. They know all the ingredients and what they are called, Maybe there's even something in there that's some kind of rare exotic fruit acid or something that no one's ever seen before. They could make their marketing all about that ingredient, but they wouldn't be taking it far enough. The customer needs to know, even if they're not expressly asking, what's in it for me? If I use that, what will happen? How will my life change? How will I feel different? So the communication about the product needs to go further to say what the benefits are. So this skincare product contains this rare exotic fruit acid, and if you buy it, the benefit will be that there'll be 80% reduction in dark spots over the first 6 months, or in the first 4 weeks, you will notice more plump and smooth skin. So there should be a focus directly on what the customer will get rather than all the things that you like about your product. Don't hyper-focus on the product's features because that's about you. Talk about what the benefits are to the customer because that's about them and that's what gets their attention. The other consideration is about your photos. Are they good enough? Do they show the product in a way that makes sense and shows what it is? You don't necessarily need the most expensive camera to take good product photos. Most of us start out with an iPhone. What's more important is actually your lighting and what's in the photo. When it comes to lighting, natural is better. If you have a room with lots of windows, that can give you really great natural light. Maybe you even have a corner of a room where there are windows on both walls and you have your very own built-in light box that you can use for your product photography. Once you're comfortable and you're selling some of your product, you can look at better cameras. You could even consider borrowing a camera from a friend and retaking some product photos to see if that results in better sales. Number 4 in the reasons why your product might not be selling is that there is too much competition and your product is not differentiated. Are you the only one selling your product, or are lots of people selling it? Every product more or less moves through the same product life cycle. So let's explore the product life cycle with an example. Never in the history of humanity have water bottles been so popular. Humans love trends, and that, coupled with the wellness movement, has meant that water bottles have hit peak popularity. Given this, you might be inclined to think, reusable water bottles are really big. I'm going to get on that. Lots of people are buying them, which means I'll be able to sell a lot. But wait, just wait. If you see a bandwagon, it's usually too late. Unless you're in that product space, or you have a customer database of people who would really love your drink bottle, be very careful. Because when a product is at peak popularity, the next step in the product life cycle is a decline. The people who were there selling that product early on have already gotten most of the gains, and it's unlikely that you'll get those same gains coming in at that late stage. But if you insist on selling in a saturated market, it's really important that you differentiate your product. So what does that mean? It means taking it a step further than everyone else has. If you're going to take something that's very accessible to people, that they can buy anywhere and that there are multiple options of, you have to ask yourself, why would someone buy my version of it? If you can't answer that without a doubt, keep iterating your product until you can answer that. Otherwise, you're taking too much risk. You might even just have to change your product altogether. Looking at products that are in the late stages of the product life cycle also presents an opportunity for you to take a step back and ask the question, what else would the people who are buying this appreciate? What would they like to buy that they cannot buy yet? Try and get to the bottom of what the problem is that that product is actually solving for people, and then ask, well, what else could help with that problem? Number 5 in the reasons why your product might not be selling is that it's just the wrong time for your product. It's just not what people need help with right now. These days, the problems that people need help with can change very quickly and permanently as a result of all kinds of things, including the state of the economy, their age, the time of year, and even just the general level of human consciousness at the time. Something that sold really well during COVID, during a time when people were stuck in their homes, like online courses and homewares, would have taken a deep dive as soon as lockdowns were lifted and people were able to travel and go outside and play sports again. Something that people would buy when they have a high disposable income would not necessarily sell well when those same people are feeling the pressure of a high cash rate and increased cost of living. You have to find a way to be able to read the room and pivot your product or pivot to a product that will help people with their current problems. Things that we know have historically sold well during difficult economic times have been things like digital assets, books, and beauty products. Just little things that people will buy instead of spending money on expensive things like holidays and cars. The lipstick index is a theory that suggests there's an increase in sales of cosmetics in the lead up to a recession. It's a theory that was coined by Robert Lauder in the 2000s recession. Customers will only spend money on small indulgences during recessions and economic downturn. So you need to ask yourself, what is it that people need the most help with right now? And what can I offer to alleviate that? If you come to it from a place of service, then you'll create something that authentically solves people's authentic problems. And this is the best starting point. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please subscribe if you haven't already.